Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. Don't forget, if you're enjoying these dives into complex topics, to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell icon so you don't miss out on future episodes. Today, we're plunging into the sometimes choppy waters of international relations, exploring India's intricate relationship with the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, the OIC. Whether you're a UPSC aspirant gearing up for GS2, a student of global politics, or just someone who likes to understand the forces shaping our world, this one's for you.
It's a relationship that often makes headlines, but the underlying dynamics can be tricky to grasp.
Exactly, and we've got a stack of insightful sources to guide us, so get ready to see India's diplomatic dance with the Muslim world in a whole new light. To kick things off, let's tackle the basics. What exactly is the OIC, and why should we care?
Think of it this way. Imagine a club with 57 members, all bound by their Islamic faith, working together to amplify their voices on the global stage. That's the OIC in a nutshell.
A powerful bloc, then.
Potentially, yes. It was formed back in 1969, triggered by a shocking event: the arson of the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem. From the outset, the OIC aimed to be a champion for the Muslim world, promoting peace, harmony, and cooperation both within its member states and internationally. They even have permanent delegations at the UN and the European Union with headquarters in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia.
So not just a talking shop, then. They're operating at the highest levels of international diplomacy.
Absolutely. But like any large organization, especially one dealing with such a diverse range of nations and interests, the OIC has a history of, let's say, mixed results when it comes to achieving its goals.
So there's more to the story than meets the eye. This is where I start getting really interested.
It's where the real complexities come in. For example,
Yeah.
the OIC has often struggled to effectively resolve conflicts between its own members.
Okay, that raises some eyebrows. So how does India, with the world's second largest Muslim population, fit into this picture? You'd think they'd be a natural member, right?
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But there's a rather large elephant in the room. Or perhaps we should say a tiger on the border.
Intriguing. I have a feeling I know where this is going. Pakistan.
Bingo. Pakistan, a founding member of the OIC, has consistently and vehemently opposed India's inclusion. They view India as a rival, not a partner, and they've used their influence within the OIC to block India's membership attempts.
That puts India in a tough spot. A massive Muslim population, deep historical and cultural ties to the Islamic world, but facing this roadblock from a key player within the OIC.
Precisely. It's a geopolitical puzzle with no easy solutions. And to make matters even more complex, the OIC has a history of siding with Pakistan on the issue of Kashmir, often issuing statements critical of India's actions in the region.
So Kashmir becomes this major sticking point, adding another layer of tension to the India-OIC relationship. We're starting to see why this is such a fascinating and potentially volatile dynamic.
Welcome back to our deep dive into India and the OIC.
Last time we set the stage, established why this relationship matters, and hinted at some of the complexities. Now let's pull back the curtain a bit further and examine the OIC itself. It's more than just a group of nations with a shared faith, right? There's got to be some kind of structure, a hierarchy, a way of making decisions.
You're absolutely right. The OIC, despite its challenges, does have a fairly elaborate structure. At the very top, you have the Islamic Summit, a gathering of the heads of state or government from each member country. It's a grand event held every few years that sets the overall direction and policy for the organization.
So if we're thinking about this like a corporation, that's the board of directors meeting setting the long-term vision.
A good analogy. Then you have the Council of Foreign Ministers, which meets more regularly to tackle the pressing issues of the day. They make decisions on behalf of the member states and act as the OIC's voice on the international stage.
So more like the executive team putting the plans into action.
Exactly. And then there's the General Secretariat, the administrative heart of the OIC. They're based in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, and they handle the day-to-day operations, implementing the decisions made by the summit and the Council of Foreign Ministers.
Sounds like a busy and perhaps sometimes chaotic operation.
Indeed. But there are other important bodies within the OIC as well. One that often makes headlines is the Al-Quds Committee.
Al-Quds, that rings a bell. Isn't that the Arabic name for Jerusalem?
It is, and this committee focuses specifically on the issue of Jerusalem, a city of immense religious and political significance for Muslims worldwide. It plays a role in advocating for Palestinian rights and maintaining the Islamic character of the city.
Given the ongoing tensions in that region, I can imagine that keeps them quite occupied.
It does. And then there are 3 permanent committees that focus on crucial areas for development and cooperation: science and technology, economy and trade, and information and culture. They work to promote collaboration and progress among member states in these areas.
So it's not just about politics and diplomacy. There's a recognition that a shared faith can also be a driver for advancement in other fields.
Absolutely. The OIC also has specialized organs like the Islamic Development Bank, which provides funding for development projects in member states.
So a multifaceted organization trying to tackle a wide range of issues. But we've already hinted that effectiveness hasn't always been their strong suit.
That's right. As with many large international organizations, the OIC often finds itself limited by internal divisions, competing interests, and the influence of certain powerful member states. It's not always easy to get 57 nations, each with their own priorities and internal politics, to sing from the same hymn sheet.
And that's where Saudi Arabia comes in, right?
Oh.
The host of the OIC headquarters and a major player in the Muslim world.
Precisely. Saudi Arabia, being the birthplace of Islam and the custodian of the 2 holiest mosques in Mecca and Medina, holds a unique position within the OIC. They are a major financial contributor and often use their influence to shape the organization's agenda.
So if you're India trying to navigate this complex landscape, having Saudi Arabia on your side wouldn't hurt.
It wouldn't hurt at all. And in recent years, we've seen a notable warming of ties between India and Saudi Arabia. High-level visits, increased economic cooperation, even defense collaboration. It's a significant shift in the dynamics.
Which I'm sure doesn't sit well with Pakistan.
You're right. Pakistan has traditionally seen Saudi Arabia as a close ally, relying on their support on issues like Kashmir. This evolving relationship between India and Saudi Arabia puts Pakistan in a somewhat awkward position.
We're starting to see how this all becomes a high-stakes game of diplomatic chess. But if India wants to increase its engagement with the OIC, it's not just about winning over Saudi Arabia, right?
Not at all. Remember, the UAE, another influential OIC member, extended that historic invitation to India's foreign minister to address the OIC Foreign Ministers Summit in 2019.
The guest of honor moment that sparked a lot of controversy with Pakistan, even boycotting the meeting in protest.
Exactly. It's a clear sign that the OIC is not a monolithic bloc. There are varying perspectives on India's role, and some members are more receptive to engagement than others.
So it seems like India is playing a multi-pronged strategy, building relationships with individual states while also trying to increase its overall presence within the organization.
A very astute observation, and this approach is playing out against a backdrop of shifting geopolitical alliances and a growing recognition of India's economic and strategic importance on the world stage.
Welcome back, everyone, to the final part of our deep dive into India and the OIC. We've explored the structure of the OIC, the key players involved, and the challenges and opportunities that this relationship presents for India. Now let's bring this all to life by looking at some specific examples of how India is engaging with the OIC on the world stage.
It's through these real-world interactions that we can truly grasp the nuances of this complex relationship.
Exactly. And I think one of the most striking examples in recent years was India's invitation to the 46th session of the OIC Council of Foreign Ministers in Abu Dhabi back in 2019.
That was a landmark moment, a clear signal that some key OIC members were ready to embrace closer ties with India, even in the face of strong opposition from Pakistan.
Right. It was the first time India was ever granted such a platform within the OIC. And it sparked a lot of debate, didn't it?
It certainly did. Pakistan, as you might recall, boycotted the meeting in protest, highlighting the delicate balancing act that India has to perform within this organization. While some OIC members are eager to deepen ties with India, others remain firmly aligned with Pakistan's position.
It's like navigating a diplomatic minefield, weighing each step carefully. But despite these challenges, India seems to be making steady progress. What are some other examples of this engagement strategy in action?
Well, consider India's relationship with Saudi Arabia. Over the past few years, we've witnessed a remarkable warming of ties between these 2 nations. High-level visits, expanding economic cooperation, even collaborations on defense matters. It's a significant shift in the dynamics.
It is. For a long time, Saudi Arabia was seen as firmly in Pakistan's corner. What's driving this change?
There are several factors at play, but a key one is the growing recognition in Saudi Arabia of India's economic and strategic importance on the global stage. India's rising economic power, its large and youthful population, its growing influence in the Indo-Pacific region. These are all factors that make India an increasingly attractive partner for a nation like Saudi Arabia.
It seems like India is playing the long game, building these strong bilateral relationships and gradually expanding its influence within the OIC as a whole.
That's a very astute observation, and it's not just limited to Saudi Arabia. India has been actively engaging with other influential OIC members like the UAE, Indonesia, and Turkey. We're seeing a growing convergence of interests, particularly in areas like trade investment and energy security.
And this engagement isn't just about symbolic gestures. There's real practical collaboration happening on the ground, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. India has signed numerous agreements with these countries on issues ranging from counterterrorism to renewable energy, from infrastructure development to cultural exchange. These practical collaborations are crucial for building trust, identifying shared interests, and laying the foundation for deeper partnerships in the future.
So it's a multifaceted approach combining high-level diplomacy with practical on-the-ground initiatives. But the question that's probably on everyone's mind is, will India ever become a full-fledged member of the OIC?
That's the big question, isn't it? And the answer, as is often the case in international relations, is it's complicated.
No easy answers, I guess.
Not in this case. As long as Pakistan continues to wield its veto power within the OIC, full membership for India remains a distant prospect.
So it's back to the long game, patiently building relationships and waiting for the right opportunity.
Exactly. But it's important to remember that even without full membership, India can still make significant progress in its engagement with the OIC. By continuing to nurture these bilateral relationships, by finding common ground on issues of shared concern, by leveraging its growing economic and diplomatic clout, India can gradually expand its influence within the organization and shape the agenda in a way that benefits both India and the wider Muslim world.
This has been an incredibly insightful journey. We've gone from a seemingly simple question, India and the OIC, and uncovered a whole universe of complexity of competing interests, of historical baggage, and future possibilities.
It's a testament to the ever-evolving nature of international relations and the crucial role that India is playing on the global stage.
And for our listeners, particularly those UPSC aspirants who are grappling with this topic, I think the key takeaway is this. India's relationship with the OIC is a dynamic, ever-shifting landscape. It requires a nuanced understanding of history, geopolitics, religious and cultural dynamics, and the interplay of domestic and international factors. It's a story that's still being written, full of challenges and opportunities.
Well said. It's a reminder that in the world of diplomacy, there are rarely easy answers or quick fixes. It's about patiently building relationships, identifying shared interests, and navigating complex terrain with wisdom and foresight.
This has been a fascinating deep dive, and I hope our listeners have enjoyed it as much as I have. We encourage you to continue exploring this topic, to stay curious, and to keep seeking those deeper layers of understanding.
And if you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on future deep dives.
Until next time, keep exploring the world with us.